A long time ago, in a small village nestled in the lush green hills of Nigeria, there lived a young woman named Ure. Ure was kind, hard-working, and blessed with a warm heart. However, she had one unusual trait that set her apart from the other women in the village. Her voice was deep and resonant, much like that of a man. From a young age, Ure was teased and ridiculed by the other children for her peculiar voice. "Hey, man voice!" they would call out, giggling and pointing at her. Ure tried her best to ignore their taunts, but deep down she felt hurt and confused. Why was her voice so different from the other girls? As Ure grew older, the teasing only intensified. The village elders would shake their heads disapprovingly whenever she spoke, and the young men would snicker behind her back. Who would ever want to marry a woman with a voice like that, they would whisper among themselves. Ure's parents, though loving and supportive, could not understand why their daughter had been cursed with such an unusual voice. They consulted the village wise woman, Mama Efe, seeking her guidance. Mama Efe listened patiently as they poured out their hearts. Then, with a twinkle in her eyes, she said, "My dear child, your voice is not a curse but a gift from the ancestors. It is a symbol of your strength. Embrace it, for it sets you apart from the rest." Ure took Mama Efe's words to heart, but it was still challenging to ignore the cruel remarks and judgmental stares from the villagers. She threw herself into her work, tending to the family's farm and helping her mother with household chores, hoping to prove her worth through her actions. One day, while fetching water from the village stream, Ure overheard a group of young men discussing the upcoming harvest festival. "I heard there will be a storytelling competition this year," one of them said excitedly. "The winner will receive a handsome prize and the admiration of the entire village." Ure's ears perked up. She had always been an excellent storyteller, weaving tales that captivated her younger siblings and filled their eyes with wonder. Perhaps this was her chance to showcase her talent and prove to the villagers that her voice was not something to be mocked. As the days passed, Ure spent every spare moment practicing her storytelling skills. She crafted a mesmerizing tale about a brave hunter who ventured into the forbidden forest and encountered a magical creature that could grant wishes. Her deep, rich voice brought the characters to life, and her animated expressions painted vivid pictures in the minds of her listeners. Finally, the day of the harvest festival arrived. Ure's heart raced as she stepped onto the village square, where a large crowd had gathered. One by one, the contestants took their turn, regaling the audience with their stories. But when it was Ure's turn, the villagers fell silent, their faces etched with skepticism. Undeterred, Ure began to speak. Her powerful voice resonated through the square, captivating the audience from the very first line. She wove her tale with such skill and passion that even the most cynical villagers found themselves leaning forward, eager to hear what happened next. As the story reached its climax, Ure's voice rose and fell like the waves of the ocean, painting a picture so vivid that the villagers could almost see the hunter standing before them, his eyes alight with determination. When Ure's tale came to an end, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then, slowly, the crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Even the village elders, who had once shaken their heads in disapproval, were clapping and cheering. Ure had won not only the storytelling competition, but also the hearts of the entire village. From that day forward, her deep, resonant voice was no longer mocked or ridiculed. Instead, it was celebrated and cherished as a rare and beautiful gift. As word spread of Ure's triumph at the storytelling competition, suitors began arriving at her family's homestead from all over the region. These were men of means and status, drawn to Ure's talent and newfound reputation. Among them was Okezie, a wealthy trader from a neighbouring village. Okezie was smitten by Ure's deep melodious voice and spellbinding storytelling abilities. He was certain that a woman with such rare gifts deserved to be with a man of his stature and wealth. Okezie showered Ure with extravagant gifts and flowery compliments, confident that she would choose him as her husband. However, Ure's heart already belonged to the kind and humble Ekene, a farmer's son from her own village. Though lacking in material riches, Ekene had a pure heart and cherished Ure for her spirit, not just her talents. When Ure politely declined Okezie's courtship in favour of Ekene's, the arrogant trader flew into a jealous rage. On the eve of Ure and Ekene's wedding day, Okezie stormed into the village square, his face contorted with anger. He carried a small leather pouch that jingled with coins as he moved. "People of the village!" Okezie bellowed. his voice booming across the gathering crowd. "I come with a handsome dowry, enough wealth to ensure this family never knows hunger again. Yet this woman spurns me for a pauper." Murmurs of shock rippled through the spectators. In their village, it was extremely dishonourable for a woman to refuse a financially promising match. Okezie yanked open the leather pouch, allowing golden coins to spill onto the ground. "Take this dowry and give me the storyteller's hand," he demanded of Ura's parents, "or I shall make certain you all lead lives of destitution." Ura watched in horror as her parents wavered, tempted by Okezie's riches yet still loyal to their daughter's choice. Just as the situation seemed at an impasse, a sudden boom of thunder shook the earth beneath their feet. All eyes turned towards the sky as storm clouds gathered overhead, flashing with blinding tendrils of lightning. Then, a tremendous clap like thunder roared across the square, but it was Ura's voice, ringing out in a powerful bellow. "Enough of this madness!" she shouted in her impossibly deep tone. She strode forward, back straight and eyes flashing with determination. "I am no man's prize to be bought or sold," Ura proclaimed. "My heart belongs to Ekene, a good man who values me for who I am. If you cannot respect that choice, then you may take your riches and be gone from this place." Okezie opened his mouth to protest, but Ura's voice rose even louder, shaking the very leaves on the trees. "My voice was once a source of ridicule, but I've learned to embrace it as a strength, and I will use its power to banish anyone who disrespects me or my family." The force of Ura's booming words struck Okezie like a forceful wind, blowing his hair back from his face. He stared at her in shock and fear as she stood resolute, her deep vocals still reverberating through the air. In that moment, the arrogant trader recognized he was defeated. Shame and humiliation burned across his features as he turned and fled from the village, leaving his dowry of coins glittering on the ground. The villagers erupted into raucous cheers and applause, emboldened by Ura's display of conviction and power. From that day forward, her voice, that once mocked maligned voice, was revered as something miraculous and unshakable. Ura and Ekene's union was celebrated with a jubilant wedding ceremony. As the new couple embraced surrounded by loved ones, Ura whispered tender vows of devotion in her husband's ear, her deep tones thick with emotion. She had found a man who cherished her for her true self, a woman whose voice and spirit were unmatchable gifts from the ancestors, and she silently vowed to use the strength of that voice to protect and provide for her family, ridiculing anyone who dared to stand in their way.